Welcome to another edition of PENSDOWN. This is the only platform that gives you an inkling into the behind-the-scenes issues that journalists, serving or otherwise, go through in their line of duty. Today, I am honored to have one of the personalities that graced the television screens for a long time with me. She is an award-winning media personality with about 13 years experience in broadcast journalism. She is a media consultant and trainer, gender advocate, humanitarian, and preacher. Currently the CEO of Selikem Consult, a communications firm which produces Seli TV, a development-oriented online channel. She worked with the Ghana television as news editor, news anchor, reporter, program producer, host, commentator, and news analyst for 11 years. A content producer and host of Women's Voice for 7 years, as well as host of The Breakfast Show and Inside the News on GTV. She was one of the moderators for Ghana's 2016 election presidential debate and encounters. She worked with GBC Radio for 2 years as news presenter, host, and reporter. From 2013 to 2020, she was lead commentator for key national events like the Independence Day parades and the funeral of the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, which was widely broadcast on international media such as Al Jazeera. Her media consultancy works have yielded clients such as Media Foundation for West Africa, Legal Resources Center, the Ministry of Roads and Highways, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, the Executive Women Network, and the United Nations Population Fund, among others. She is a member of the advisory board for the Justice Sector Support Activity on the case tracking system under the auspices of the USAID, being spearheaded by the Legal Resources Center. She has trained more than 70 individuals in public speaking skills in various professions to assert themselves in speaking, with testimonials to her credits. As a humanitarian and preacher, she runs Seli Ministries, a Christian non-profit entity that solicits medical aid for vulnerable women and children and engages in mission work dubbed the Hope Mission, which donates essentials to the destitute while evangelizing them for Christ. This is the best part for me. Mrs. Apaloo is married and the union is blessed with 3 children. My guest today is Selikem Acolatse-Apaloo. Thank you for making time to be with me today. Truly honored to have you here.
Thank you, Stephen. Great work you're doing.
Thank you very much. I'm curious, how did you end up in journalism in the first place?
So journalism was an accident.
Oh, I see.
Because I never wanted to be in the media.
Okay.
I see myself more as an introvert.
Okay.
And growing up, I saw my father, who was also in broadcasting for several years, do his job. And I thought it made a slave out of him. So I didn't fancy the profession at all.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't even want to go near it. Then national service comes along the line after my university education, and then I'm posted to GBC of all places. Are you kidding me? I can't be posted to GBC. This is a man who I went to straight up and said, hey, Papa, you have to change this thing for me. You have to work out something. You know people. And he says, no, he's not going to do anything about it.
Was he behind it?
No, he wasn't.
I see.
We all don't know how. How come? because in all the spaces I chose, none of it was anything journalism.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. So we all don't know how. So I thought there could be a way out. So I bypassed him and moved on to an uncle who was willing to help. And through that, we pushed applications into some banks. And it's interesting that it came out somehow during the process that they wouldn't find my documents mysteriously.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and in two separate incidents. And so he said to me that, you know what, probably this is divine. So why don't you take it in your stride? That was when the tears started.
So you went to GBC in tears.
In tears.
My goodness. Wow.
And under the compulsion of a divine orchestration of the Lord. Okay. So I go in there and I'm posted to the radio newsroom, and immediately I request a change of posting because I didn't want to be there. My father was there, so I didn't want to be there.
Okay.
And somehow I'm posted to the breakfast show division, which was the production division for radio at the time. Okay. So I would work, as a producer. I would make the coffee, make the calls, remind everybody that, your show was coming up and all of that. But somehow, as that was going on, I tended to find myself interested in having to meet different people from different walks of life, different backgrounds every day. It sort of seemed exciting. So the news anchors will come and read the news and they'll drop their news bulletins. And I found myself picking them up. I'll go home, read to myself, look in the mirror and see if this was doable.
My goodness.
But I was nowhere near, because I was in production, I was nowhere near presentation.
Okay.
So it so happens that somewhere getting to the close of the national service, there's a training program for retraining of news anchors, television and radio.
Okay.
They give a chance to each department to nominate one national service personnel to just go sit in there and also pick something. And my department, the production department, nominated me because I was everywhere. I was quite, I was inquisitive, so I wanted to learn everything,
Okay.
So they picked me, said no likely person. I go in there and it's a 1 month training course, and somehow I took it to heart. Wow. I was serious about it.
Okay. Wow.
So it wasn't going anywhere. So, after this program, the trainer just calls me, one of the final days, just calls me and gives me a social announcement, the ones you hear on radio.
Yes.
To read out to the class. And I read it out like a pro. Ooh. And the class was quiet, because these were seasoned television and radio personalities at the time. They were all quiet. Everybody was listening to me. But no comment was made then. After a week after the training, I get a call.
Now, hold on. The quietness, nobody made a comment. How did you interpret it yourself? Did it leave you confused, or it left you convinced that you had done something good?
I was a bit confused.
Okay.
Because nobody really said anything to me except for the assistant trainer who said that was good.
That's all.
Yeah, she said that was good.
Okay.
And that's all. So a week after, I get a call from the director of radio.
Okay.
That he learned that I was, I read in the, and he's learning from the training school that I'm a talent that needs to be harnessed.
Oh, I see.
For news presentation. And I said, no. They should take me to the DJ inside. I didn't want to be in the public eye. That's one thing for me. I love the being hidden behind the scenes kind of thing. also I was a little bit confused and naive. So she said, DJing, why DJing? No. We're talking news presentation, we're talking reporter, journalists, and all of that. So I thought about it, and I tried another offer I had in another bank, thinking I was going to move out there, only for similar thing to occur. My particulars mysteriously got missing.
Wow. From
the lot of the people who were called for the interview, even though I was walked to the HR personnel.
Oh, okay.
So I said, okay, so hands off, God is talking. So let me just.
That's right.
Let me just succumb. And so by the grace of God, I was giving a contract, a 1-year contract.
Okay.
Work on contracts as a staff with the news. So I was taken back to the radio newsroom I ran away from in the beginning.
Okay.
And I was there working as a reporter. By and by, my producers on radio called me to sit in for them. They were away and they wanted me to produce the breakfast show. I did for about a month. They came, they were so excited, they gave me a slot on radio.
Wow.
to do something, a 5-minute something, and there was no time for it. So if you were my friend and you were supposed to listen to me, you would have to tune in between 9 all the way to 10. So I was doing this thing called the health tips on the breakfast show, or the health corner, and somehow because of that, certain people had heard my voice in the newsroom. You hear your voice on radio, so you can read your own scripts, because those times, I mean, the standards were so high, or they are still high, such that you couldn't just read your own reports. You had to be passed through, stringent training and all of that. But they thought that I was ripe for it, so I should go ahead. And then I started reading my own reports, and then before I knew it, I came to work one day and my name was just up there for the news. And I was like, oh my God, so it's happening. What I was secretly rehearsing for is happening. And that's how I got to become radio news anchor. But the TV I applied for, because TV had an advert, they wanted people. And we went through all these interviews, auditions, and then out of about 100 applicants of us, 20 were chosen, 10 taken to radio, and then 10 to television. And I happened to be among the 10 who were taken to television.
Now, this is interesting. For somebody who, at the beginning, you said you prefer to be a behind-the-scenes person. And today, that same person is applying for television.
I was pushed to apply.
But obviously, I'm sure once the offer came, you accepted it, that yes, it is here. I have to face it.
I did. And it became my life. When I got in there, I just wanted to do the best that I could do. So I would spend extra hours rehearsing. I would watch other anchors. I would monitor what other stations were doing. I will upgrade myself. I would update myself on happenings around the world. And I'm not a telenovela type of girl, so I wasn't interested in those things, but I was interested in current affairs and what was happening. And I think that, to a large extent, helped me distinguish myself, because when the opportunity for interviews came up, it would take your understanding of current happenings around to be able to ask the right questions and to be able to, man an interview properly. And these were things you were just pushed into on TV. You go to work, you're minding your business, and then you're called by your boss that there's somebody on the line, they are flat somewhere in Accra, interview the person. Everybody's watching you.
Wow.
So I think that my proactiveness at the time worked to my advantage. However, God's grace was amazingly upon my life, because the day that Professor Atta Mills, former president,
passed on,
yes, I happened to be the only available newsreader on duty.
Wow.
Yes. I was working at the time, I was in the same team with Gifty Auntie, Ohinyere Gifty Auntie.
Yes.
a great mentor to me, and she was supposed to be in the chair coordinating everything that happens. So even though she was a reader herself, she couldn't be on set reading. She had to be behind the scenes coordinating everything.
Oh.
Now, all stations were announcing the president's death, but everyone wanted to hear it from GTV.
For
I remember
authenticity's sake.
Yes, 5 p.m. I had to go. She said, "You can do this. You have to go. You have to go on air, announce to the nation." And I mean, it was a big thing. And I was on air, Stephen, I was on air from 5 p.m. to 15 minutes to 7. I remember when former President John Mahama was then
sworn in. Yes.
Substantial president. I'd interviewed political figures, religious leaders, all kinds of people. And after that, the Director General walked to the newsroom to congratulate me. And that sealed the beginning of my entry into the world of production and hosting a show that I ran by myself for 7 years, the Women's Voice.
Now tell me, was this opportunity, almost 2 hours, was that your first opportunity to appear live on TV?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, but that was the first major opportunity you were given.
Major, yes, because no reader less than we entered in 2009, and this was happening in 2012, but you were still not big now.
That's right. Yeah.
Major assignment.
Yeah.
So you'll be allowed to do the little interviews, but not the big ones.
And this program from 5 to 7 was largely an unscripted one, because the interviews were extempore. They were just coming in and you had to.
Yes.
And you got a pat on the back from the Director General himself. How was the feeling like?
It was good. It was good. It was relieving, but I knew that, look, God was at work. I knew that because, and I saw the work of unmerited favor coming through. Yes, I know that I've been working hard behind the scenes, but this was just divinely, and how I've been my life, divinely orchestrated to elevate me to the next level.
Wow. Now, let's look at it this way. I remember very clearly when the news broke out. I think it was around, we started hearing it somewhere around 2, 3 thereabout in town. Yes. Now, the grief was all over the country. Everybody was gripped in the grief. You were on this seat with television cameras active and live in front of you. How were you able to keep your emotions at bay? He was our certain president. How did you keep your emotions at bay to get this done for 2 hours without allowing your emotions to get a better part of you?
Stephen, you know what? It took a lot of focus on, one, not letting my bosses down, two, being strong and not letting the people of Ghana down, because at the time, at the state broadcaster, you were representing the face of television. There were other international media stations that were watching and picking and following developments. And so this was a huge burden. And I just asked for grace. Mind you, I was 3 months pregnant.
You mean on the seat? You were pregnant 3 months on the seat, announcing somebody's, the death of no other person than the certain president.
Yeah, so you can imagine the emotions were there. But I was able to, by God's grace, just translate those emotions into being as professional as I could. And I allowed the emotions to flow through the questions.
Oh, okay.
I remember a popular writer, I've forgotten his name, but he wrote a script in the Daily Graphic at the time. No, it was Spectator.
Okay.
And he mentioned how composed and controlled I was. But it was just grace. I tell
Wow.
you. Yeah.
Wow. So with that major assignment on live television, offline, how did you see yourself going forward? Did you begin to feel that you had arrived, or you still had the mindset that there was more room for improvement? So for every other day, you were going to ensure that you became a better version of yourself.
It meant for me hard work
Mm,
and harder work and more sacrifices.
mm,
It meant for me that I had to do better than what I did that day.
mm,
Because, I mean, you can be ready, but all the same, I would say that opportunity met preparation, but
yeah,
I was just favored to be able to go through it without any
that's right.
hitch.
Yeah.
So then I realized I had a lot of work to do to
Mm,
keep that standard and then maintain it. And then I knew that that will open the door for every other interviewing opportunity to start coming. And so they did.
mm,
When there was an opportunity for interviews or something, I would be called. Where's Selikem?
mm,
She should come in. Where's Selikem?
mm,
She should handle. So then it meant that I needed to study more. I needed to be more conscious about current affairs, read more, read wide. And it meant a lot. Pushing
mm,
myself personally, I think, was one of the
mm.
biggest I came across.
You said on the day, Gifty Auntie was coordinating some of the things in the background, am I right? While you were live.
Yeah,
When you were done, did she say anything to you?
of course. A big hug.
Oh,
It was a
wow.
big hug. And
Mm,
she was super proud
mm,
because she had been a voice for many of us who came in to GBC
mm,
young at the time.
mm.
Because then that was the first time that GBC was introducing very young faces,
Faces, that's right.
university
Mm,
graduates, and that was the
mm,
first time people in Ghana were seeing people like that. So
mm.
she was that person that will keep pushing us because it
Okay.
wasn't easy. The
Mm,
critique was so harsh
mm,
and so hard from
mm,
within and without,
mm,
just because you're working at a state broadcasting corporation that had people expected the highest and the best of standards from.
mm. Wow. Now, radio, let's go back to radio. Those 5 minutes you got to be doing things on radio. Where was your father in the scheme of all these things? Was he behind all these things, or where was he?
I like that question because my dad
Mm,
knew how to remove himself from your life,
okay.
but at the same time, be very involved. So this is a
Mm,
man who, knowing that his daughter and my sister is also in journalism, Marianne Akolache, as she
yes.
was known at the time, was in journalism. Knowing that he had two daughters in journalism now,
Mm,
wouldn't be on you, he wouldn't be monitoring you, but he was watching everything you did, every assignment, every time you were on air, every time you were on the show. It was shocking that this man was monitoring.
mm,
He didn't say anything to you. And then when in your casual leisure moments, when you go to say hi, then he brings out this notebook that has everybody's name, the mistakes in it, and he will tell you about, the mistakes you made. When
mm,
it was necessary, he will call you and
mm.
congratulate you like he did that day.
Oh, wow.
He'll call you and congratulate you right after he's seen you do something great. He'll
Mm,
call you. I remember that on any occasion I had to run commentary, Independence Day or reading the budget or any other national event, if I did well, he'll call you. He'll call
mm,
you and say you did well. Then he'll tell you what you did wrong.
mm.
He would
Oh,
always point to you where you need to work on. You say, work on this, work on that. But
okay.
there was never really a time like when he was lecturing you. No, he would
Okay.
just tell you what to work on. So he was watching like a big brother from behind,
Mm,
but never really interfering.
okay. Since you got your face on the screens, how much of your privacy did you sacrifice?
I think too much. I think too
Wow.
much because even now, Even now, I mean, after moving out in 2020 and now, you're wearing a nose mask and people still say, this was the best thing to have ever happened to me.
Exactly.
You still get people saying, I know you somewhere. Where do I know you? Where have we met? And everything you do, people are watching you. They're watching you at home. They're watching you on the streets. I have for a long time not been able to go for walks out in the open until I started street evangelism.
Wow.
The Spirit of God is moving you, so you don't feel anything. But I also was very particular about where and where I go because I carry the image of the national broadcaster. So what I did, where I went to, and I'm an indoor person naturally. So get me a good movie, a good book, get me a good preacher, a good audio preaching. I'll be in the room for you. I won't go anywhere. You know.
Wow.
So that's me.
Wow. Which day stands out for you as your best? You did this on television and afterwards, you even congratulated yourself that, oh, this, I have given my best. We did.
I think my best moments on television, let me say moments.
Okay.
My best moments on television were when I was hosting the program Women's Voice.
Okay.
Because on Women's Voice, I met different kind of female personalities. The high and mighty to the lowest. I had Ayaye in the studio telling me about why they came to Accra. I had female trotro mates. I had women who had children with disability who were abandoned by their husbands come into the studio. I had women accused of witchcraft, women who had gone through cancer and survived come into the studio. I had parliamentarians. I had former first ladies, second ladies. So my most cherished moments on screen were hosting this program that became such a household program for many women. And I was shocked to know from one of the ladies I had accompanied to Cantamanto some time ago to find a lady in her hat in there who's a trader who said, "What? Women's Voice? I'm watching you." I met a vulcanizer who said, "Wow, Women's Voice. I watched that program." But the most cherished moment was when hosting a women's program. I discovered when we were celebrating the 4th anniversary that we had more men watching than women.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because on that show, what I did, which I felt that was what society needs to do in the gender conversation, is make the gender conversation hearable to every other person, including men.
Okay.
So the conversation is about, yes, creating opportunities for women, but not in a manner that will make men feel as though they are being taken off the seat for women to sit. But for men to understand the advantage they gain if their wives are empowered, if their own daughters are empowered, what that means for them in their old age if a daughter is empowered or she is schooled. And presenting it that way, allowing men to be on the show. I hosted several men on several women's issues. And sometimes people will get mad at me that, why did you bring a man? What does he know about? What do you mean he doesn't know? He is such a part of society. So when we're hosting our 4th anniversary, we had some giveaway packages, and I was looking for the 10 most consistent viewers. And out of the number, 9 of them were men.
Really? My goodness.
That was the moment that I said, Yes, I think that the goal that I wanted to achieve has been achieved.
Oh.
You know, another very interesting moment for me. I think that was the highlight of my career, but also a very challenging moment was when I hosted the President John Mahama was sitting right opposite me.
You mean a sitting president?
He was a sitting president.
Really?
A sitting president.
Wow.
You know, and I interviewed him in the presidential encounter. You know, we had the presidential debate where you had all the candidates. That I hosted with Afare Yeboah. Oh, Mr. Dan Afare Yeboah.
Yes. What do you know?
Man started journalism when I was 1 year. So to be sitting by him and on the same platform and interviewing presidents was amazing. But to be sitting opposite a sitting president and having to ask on behalf of the nation the questions that everybody wanted was the heaviest load ever. Wow. That was quite something I'll never forget. I'd never forget that moment. Wow.
I remember when I spoke with Conrad Kakraba, he also, once you talked about the pressure these two brought on you live on set, a certain president, a veteran broadcaster. He also mentioned the first day he had to be on the 7 p.m. news, he was with Gifty and he said it felt like a mother and son affair. But he said what made him confident to be able to deliver was the kind of, prop Gifty was giving him, telling him, oh, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Otherwise, for him, the whole moment would have swallowed him up. So you were with a colleague journalist, but a veteran, somebody who had seen it all. And then two of you were saddled with the responsibility of interviewing or maybe having a discussion with a sitting president.
I tell you.
How many buckets of sweat did you recall before you?
I remember being told by friends that there was nothing about you that day that showed that you know how to smile. You were so serious, They said, look, you didn't look like a fun-loving person at all. The pressure was intense because these were presidential figures with the sitting president among them.
Exactly.
There were all kinds of eyes, waiting to judge your questions.
And obviously, his presence at GTV had brought extra security as well to the compound.
Yes. So you're sitting opposite the president like that, and it's like so much pressure. Where the questions you want to ask leave your mind and come back at will.
Tell me, at what time of the day were you told you were going to be in the hot seat to do this?
Okay, so I was told this a week to the time.
Okay.
And guess what? I had a baby.
Oh.
I was nursing my 2-month-old baby, my last son.
Wow.
My 2-month-old baby, when I got a call from my boss, Mr. Ebenezer Mpabe, he says, oh, the DJ has been talking about you lately. I said, me, why? I'm nursing, I'm at home. And then he says, well, the presidential debates, he wants you to be part of the team that will be. And I said, I'm nursing. And he said, okay, so you want me to tell the DG that? And I said, hold on, let me talk to my husband. We had a conversation. My husband said, look, this is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
So, and you are not in pain, you are fine, you are healed. We can do this. We can do this together. I will come home, I'll close early, I'll try and get home by 4, so you can go. Because the encounters started in the evenings around 7:30, about 8 or so. Yes, 8 or so. So He said, look, we can do this. So I called and said, yes, I'm going to do this. But trust me, from that moment, it wasn't easy because there were two anchors for the presidential encounters.
Okay.
One sits in the seat with the candidates, and the other one will be in the studio on the floor, coordinating questions coming from the audience and then also online.
Okay.
And I immediately assumed that I was going to be the one standing in the, coordinating the questions. I immediately assumed.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. This is something that I think many women in media have come to accept, that they are second place. They are not first choice when it comes to hard stories, when it comes to current affairs and hard programs, because we see that in our morning shows. So when I was told that, no, you are not the one coordinating the questions, you will be sitting, I said, no, can you swap? So I called my colleague, Abdul Hai Muming, and I said, can you swap with me so that you... No. He said, no, these things are decided. They've been decided already. And I said, but the whole world is going to make a mockery of me. First of all, because I'm a woman. And, I don't know. I just don't want this. This is too big. It's too... But,
now, so it looks like all of a sudden you started marking yourself down for all the years you have done some of these things. Yes, it is true that this was high profile. It is a precedent we are talking about. But questions are questions, or?
Yeah, they are.
So at least as the good Christian you are, I believe you should have just prayed and then faced it. If you perish, you perish. Or?
But as like you said, whenever you're faced with any situation like that, because you haven't seen it happen, I haven't seen it happen.
Yeah.
That you had a male colleague and a female colleague, and the female colleague was in the lead, was made to lead the conversation. I hadn't seen it.
But hadn't you realized that in your career path, you were disrupting every status quo? I think you should have looked back at how you got there, and you would have realized that you had represented a disruption of the status quo up until that time.
Amen. I like the way your disruption of the status quo is coming up, which is great. But any truly meek person really never ever really measures themselves up, no matter how you see it.
Yeah. I get it.
Until they get to the point where they have to accept it. There's almost always an initial
wow.
Could it be somebody else?
Wow.
But and I think that
on this day, on this day, did you have some initial pep talk with the president behind the scenes, or before you entered the studio, or you sat and he came?
There was no pep talk moment. There was not going to be any pep talk moment.
Wow.
You sat, you did your makeup or whatever, you got ready, you sat, and then he was ushered him with the security and all that, because the security protocol, state protocol will already be around to make sure it's okay. And then he walked in straight. So when he came in straight, the whole studio, everybody stood. And I remember that moment when we all stood and I gave him a handshake and he sat. It was like, oh God. Can I just vanish into the ground right now? But and I thought I wouldn't survive, but I did. I did. It went through. I was commended by my female colleagues. In fact, many female colleagues in other media houses. Immediately, my ranking shot up.
I watched that encounter myself. I watched it myself. I'll tell you something. We knew he was to appear, but for me, in my eyes, I was seeing something like a giftianti or some sort of thing, or maybe a Barbara Gaze. I mean, one of those top shots that is for a female, or some Ebenezer Mpabing, or one of these veterans. But once it turned out to be you, for me, I decided to give you a fresh plate and see what you had to do, because I hadn't seen you do a president's interview before. So we decided to keep our fingers crossed. And I think, there's one thing about journalism. You cannot ask all the questions.
No.
No matter the opportunity. No. You know, you cannot ask all the questions. And I think that day you did good. You did well.
Let's go
What other moment on television brought a lot of, there are times you may be meeting that expected. You are trying to glean some information from the internet, but you are not getting enough. And it looks like there is some information is scanty on his field. But this is somebody you have about 30 minutes to talk to. How am I going to ask 2-3 questions in 30 minutes? Won't I exhaust it in 5 minutes? Was there any such moment?
I think 2, I can remember. Because I had trained myself, and somehow I think we were trained to just expect the unexpected.
Okay.
So I had 2 of such moments. One, I had a guest who came to the studio. I had prepped her everything. This was Women's Voice. And then I asked her a question, and then she looks at me like, I'm like, what do you mean? There were 2. So she wanted her colleague to take the question. Instead of just, she was just sitting there looking at me like not responding to the question. And so I decided to move the question to her. So I remember that moment was like, was I unfair to her in the question I asked her? Was it too hard? I'd never seen that. I'd never seen somebody do that.
But did you get any feedback on that question from your team behind the scenes after the program?
No. In my line of work, I observed that you were left to do the homework.
Okay.
You would have, yes, an initial production team, but most of what I did, I did the work by myself.
Okay.
I was producing, I was developing content and all of that by myself. Second time this happens was when I was reading the news. Auto cue goes off and I don't have a script.
Whoa.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I ended this nicely. It was sports news, and so I knew the video clip would come up. So when the thing went off mid-sentence, I just found a way to myself a few times, and then I ended it with something logical and said, "Let's go to the video now."
Wow. Wow.
But in that same issue, I remember happened to a colleague, and she totally froze. Yeah, totally. And I remember subsequently we realized that she wasn't on air again, and a lot of issues. I mean, things happen.
Let me take you back to my conversation with Conrad. There were very exciting things he said. He said there were times he made some mistake in the news, and afterwards he himself would say, "I hope nobody was watching this news, because if somebody watched this, then I'm in trouble." Was there a moment like that for you where some blunder, some slip, or some unpardonable mistake made you wish that the whole world had some light off, such that it was only in the studio that you said it and it remained there?
So many. I think there were so many. There's so many slips, and in talking naturally, I tend to sometimes ramble over my words when I'm talking when I'm excited and I'm talking very fast.
Okay.
I ramble over my words. So I would ramble over the words, and then I realize that you've missed it. It comes out like that. So you go back, take the sentence again, and you say, "I beg your pardon." And sometimes you find yourself doing that 2-3 times in a very with a short script.
Yeah.
And so you feel like, I hope nobody was watching. And you don't want to go to the newsroom after.
Yeah.
Your boss will be waiting for you. So you don't want to go to the newsroom after. You don't want to see anyone. So you actually hang around that till called, There are so many moments like that. But you I think being very self-conscious and being very self-aware also helped.
GBC,
Before it comes.
the on-air personalities, be it radio or television for GBC, they have a certain religious commitment to getting the pronunciation right. In fact, the first time I had a conversation with Thelma Taki, who was my coursemate at JIG, I told her I'm not a broadcaster, so I don't want pressure, because I know GBC people, they are going to pronounce every word with excellence. Now, in your own case, how easy was it for you to get it as they wanted it? How easy was that for you?
It wasn't very easy, you know. The problem they had with me was I was not, my tone, they said my tone was never descending or so. It's supposed to descend and not ascend.
Oh.
And yes. So let me give you a typical example.
Okay.
Let me give you a typical example. So it should be, this is a sentence. I'm speaking with Stephen in a conversation on Zoom. Okay, that should be the correct way. Okay. However, this was me. I'm speaking with Stephen in a conversation on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
That's
okay, I get it.
I'm speaking with Stephen in a conversation on Zoom. So I was never really getting the descending thing. I was always defending. So at radio, our trainer had a tough time with me, and she would ask me to stop reading sometimes. She would bring me back on, she'd take me off air. But the biggest blunder on television was during the news when it was a story about a clash of land guards and some landowners, and somebody was killed. But this is me, Stephen. I've been laughing 50% of the interview. I've been laughing. So I like it.
Yeah, that's right.
Smiling at the beginning of my scripts and all that. And so I forgot that this script was a serious script.
Yeah.
I went and I was smiling. I was smiling at the beginning of the script until I got to the middle and I realized that, oops, this is not a smiling context.
That's right.
And so I quickly straightened my face, but it was seen by the Deputy Director General at the time. And, we had just come in fresh. This was like 2010 or so. I was dropped from reading the news immediately for smiling when it was a bloody story I was reading.
Wow.
So I was suspended for a month. Smiling at the wrong time.
Then your internal checks and controls are ruthless.
Very, very ruthless.
Don't they get anybody depressed? I'm wondering. Somebody must.
Well, I'll be frank. That kind of close monitoring and critique for anyone who is not sure of themselves and has confidence issues, it can really damage your presentation and personality as a presenter.
Okay.
So what I found with that system at the time was many of us were behaving like dummies. We would sit in a robot-like manner, present the news in a robot-like manner, because we wanted to keep to the rules. Then we'll move back. We were doing that even at a time when journalism and media had evolved and had become more dynamic, such that the news anchor moves, the news anchor turn, the news anchor use their hands. They are actual human beings. They are animated.
That's right. That's right.
It was so bad that people actually thought that the late news, that was the news, was recorded from the 7 o'clock news, because you saw the person static, reading, same way, same shoulder, same dress. Then 10 o'clock, they came back, repeated the same thing. moving on,
Mm.
the national broadcaster has been able to work on some of these things
In fact, I
because,
think the revolution is obvious. Personally, I
yes,
would say,
yes,
from the time they started introducing young faces, some
yes.
of us were praying it doesn't become a 9-day wonder, you know. uh, and we were also hoping that those young people, for the kind of faith vested in them, they will
Mhm.
not, betray the trust of the people who have vested such faith in them. And I think by and large, the delivery and the performance has been commendable, you know. But
Yes,
obviously, you cannot perform like a veteran, you
yes,
know.
you can.
That's it. But with the attitude of a young person, I think those people came in handy. The younger ones and the younger faces came in handy,
Exactly.
and that rebranding is helping to reposition the brand actually. Another question I want to ask: when you go to GBC, I'm talking about
Mhm.
from radio to TV and all.
Yeah.
Um, did you have kids? Were you married? Were you single?
Mm. So I got in 2009. I was single. By 2010, late end part
Mm.
of the year, I was married.
Okay, so now let's look at, when you marry, be it male or female, and of course, for the ladies, it becomes much more challenging. How challenging was the combination of a tasking job and the home responsibilities as a wife? How were you doing the balancing act?
It it had to take a lot of tact
Mm,
and planning ahead, planning
mm,
your days and your weeks way ahead
mm,
so that you can be present at home.
mm,
Because the job for me also being a multi-skilled
mm,
journalist was
mm.
that I was doing so many things and I was needed on so many assignments, sometimes even outside Accra,
Yeah.
so much that I was barely at home.
Mm,
So it meant that you needed help
mm,
managing the home. It
mm,
meant that I needed to be constantly in touch with my spouse
mm.
because that assurance has to be there. You are
Yeah.
always all over the place,
Mm,
doing what you have to do. So
mm,
extra hours, waking up early, making sure meals are prepared at home and all of those things, calling to make sure that homework is done, all these things, standing with them also in prayer in difficult moments,
yeah.
cutting work to take them to the clinic and rushing back. And
Mm,
it's not easy.
mm.
It's not easy to
Mm.
combine both worlds. And I remember asking myself at the point, is the Lord really sure that the Proverbs 31 woman exists? Because she's supposed to wake up early. I
And
wake
feed the
up early,
household.
feed the household. I do that. She's supposed to
Mm,
also be able to go out. So I go
mm,
out. But she's supposed to also be at home, present at
mm.
home. So are we really supposed to be working and making a home at the same time? I mean, are we sure? Because it's not, it's such a it's so the task is so huge that if you do not balance it well,
Mm,
you do not have mentoring and you do not
mm,
have outlets and a
mm,
support system in your
mm,
husband,
mm.
your family, and then
Yes.
someone to help you literally at home with
Mm,
the work of
mm,
cleaning and
mm.
nannying children. If you do
Yeah.
not have that, those systems, you will
Mm,
either lose the marriage, you lose the relationship, or you'll be an absent mom but successful outside.
yeah. Mm,
It's like it's a price to pay. So you
yes.
find that many women at a point look at themselves and opt to get out of active journalism so that they can do something that they
Mm,
can blend. This is one of the reasons we do not have women at the top of the media organizations. They
mm,
are not able to stay through the stress
mm,
all the way till you get to the top. Because to get to the top, you need to be consistent at work. You need to be there for promotions. Now,
mm,
if you are not present, like somebody like me who had 3 babies in 4 years.
Wow.
And you keep going in and out, and you're going on maternity leave and coming back. If it wasn't for the fact that I was cutting in on even my maternity leave and coming to do work and all of that, and I tried to be very assertive, how would I have even been able to have hosted that presidential debate anyway, for instance? What if I had chosen to just be with my family? That would have never happened in my career. So women are always faced with those choices. And it is extremely challenging to be able to balance a family, but it is doable if you have the right support system.
You made mention of something. It was actually my second question. I just hope I don't get myself into trouble. There is a lot of attrition in the system. So many trained, qualified journalists are abandoning the craft and looking elsewhere for survival. Do I say you have joined them or you are one of them, which is the appropriate description?
It's a combination of factors that we have to be open and honest about if we want to change anything. The journalism craft in Ghana does not pay and reward as much as it should.
Okay.
So for people who are starting families and want to develop themselves and to have something better for themselves, they would want to move out, because if I'm spending out of my hours close to 12 to 10 hours or 15 hours working, and I am not getting the remuneration that is equivalent to that, or the reward that should be equivalent to that, then it means I also cannot do any other thing to support myself.
That's right.
To get the extra money. So you would at a point think of doing something else or getting a more flexible schedule. I am out of mainstream media work. But very much connected to the media in so many ways, because in the consultancy firm I run, I'm doing so many things still connected to the media. Producing documentaries is still media. Even though I'm not sitting in front of a television every day, even with a YouTube channel, getting for the productions and it's even becoming challenging, you know, as that. But yes, we have not moved out. We are still with media. We are once media, forever media.
Oh, wow.
But we also just want to pave the way for others to also come up and experience it, you know.
Wow.
So that's my answer.
You have very well received. You did almost 13 years at the GBC, or let's say 13 years. If we are to roll back the hands of time, let's say 20 years, would you still choose journalism, and will it still be GBC?
Am I still on camera? I thought I was off camera because that question is such a dangerous question.
Oh, wow. Handle it anywhere you can, any way you can.
If we had to turn back the hands of time, I probably would not have been at GBC for as long as I was.
Okay.
And I probably would have moved on to explore other media. But that would have been way earlier in the career.
Okay. Wow. Wow. I see the difficulty with which you are handling this bag of eggs. I can be troublesome sometimes, don't mind me. But now you are building capacity. You are training people in public speaking and other things. You are also building up yourself through postgraduate education. Are you looking at possibly in future becoming an academic teaching? I mean, at the university level, maybe media or broadcasting or anything like that?
I tell you what, it hasn't really crossed my mind. It hasn't really crossed my mind because as it stands, though I am still doing a lot of training for private training in public speaking and in that area, going into mainstream lecturing hasn't really crossed my mind. Maybe I'll take your recommendation and see what I can do with it. if they'll have me, why not?
If we are to reverse the 13 years you spent at GBC, what is it
Like
that you did? What is it that you did on air, radio, or TV that you would like to undo or do it better?
Stephen, I must be honest. I think I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it any other way. I've tasted and experienced the best of the front line in general through every path, straight or crooked.
Yeah.
So I take it as 13 years of sheer blessing because I have come into contact with people that I am still in contact with now that have given me a net worth capital of wealth. You know, there is human resource wealth.
That's right. Yeah.
I have acquired. And that is also to say that even though the media doesn't pay, if you know how to use the connections that come your way,
that's right.
You won't see it as a loss. These people I have had the privilege of being in contact with today are still blessings to me in so many ways. So am I to so many ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
GBC is blessed with talent. Veterans, middle-level professionals, and those that are starting or those at the base. When you entered, you met a lot of veterans, extremely experienced ones, some of whom you were listening to or watching on television. How was the experience upon entry when you got to see all of them in flesh and blood? Were you intimidated? Was it?
It was no joke. It was no joke.
Wow.
It was, look, you went to work with your heart pounding. As soon as you go to the gates of GBC, your heart was pounding twice as much as it was.
Wow.
When you entered the newsroom, it wasn't easy, you know, because we came in as the first ever introduced very young faces after a long time of the public having and knowing GBC for the veteran faces.
Yeah.
So you had a lot to prove, but at the same time, you were also watching yourself. You were also being critiqued. It was, the first few days, you should probably have a conversation with Abdul Hai Mumin. It wasn't an easy walk in the park. And they were hard on us for our own good.
Okay.
They were hard on us for our own good because we yielded the needed results. They were really hard on us. I remember the first time I went on air to read the news on TV, news highlights, Francisca Ashite Oduntun. Yes. Who is ambassador to Kenya?
I think so.
She calls me and she says, are you not one of these new people? Come. Are you not one of the new readers? Come. And she hands me a new script and she says, read. And I'm like, She says, I said, read aloud. I want to hear you. And this is around, it's almost 4:45. And this is around, 4:45, and it's about Yeah. So, and I read, and she says, "Oh, she's okay. This one, she's okay. Well, she can go on air. Hey, the 5 o'clock news, I won't do it again. Go on air."
Just like that?
That's how I had my first TV encounter.
Wow.
That's why I say, Stephen, that I wouldn't have it any other way. It was a mixed favor and graces that came my way because I happened to be about the second person among the batch of the 10 who went to television, who had the chance to appear on television. And I was the first to start reading the midday news, you know, and then second to start reading the late news, and one of the first to start reading the 7 p.m. news.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. I asked you earlier if you had the opportunity to turn back the hands of time, would it be GBC? You've answered that, but I'm wondering, through your journalism practice, have you tasted print journalism?
Print.
Or it's been all broadcasting?
It's been all broadcasting. I was only submitting scripts. No, but even that one, it was just about twice or so to be published in a friend's, column somewhere. But
okay.
I had the opportunity to build it. But I thought that blending with everything would be a little bit too much. So I didn't.
How did awards come to you? You are an award-winning broadcaster. What did awards mean to you? Was it an opportunity to be a better version of yourself, or a confirmation that you really know your stuff?
I think that in a way, because the work of the media shows your work is out there and it is judged and evaluated by everybody.
That's right.
So when you get an award in the media, you then realize that, oh, okay, so I was actually doing something right. And for me, it's more about the impact that we actually made impacts.
Yeah.
Especially for Women's Voice. I said, wow, we actually made impacts. We actually made impacts in the lives of women.
Okay. Do you believe journalists should be licensed in Ghana? It's an ongoing debate on this platform.
I think so. I'll take a hard stand and say that I think so. The journalism craft is one that can easily be explored and easily, people can come in easily into the field. And when people are not licensed, they come out with their talents easily. But also, to have a space of unlicensed people also gives room for misconduct.
Okay.
And I think that there's a lot of misconduct in the media that goes unchecked. We have still not, as a country, been able to pass our broadcasting bill that should regulate us and give us the dignity that it should. Because, why do I say that? Because, Stephen, you're doing this. You've been dedicated. I'm doing this. Other people are. But then one day you are lumped up with someone who's just got a phone and has fingers to be able to type a story. And you are measured with that person. I think it devalues, not licensing journalists, devalues their value. Also, because of the misconduct about our work, it also reduces in the eyes of the public who the journalist is. And it does not allow the law enforcement bodies to be more sensitive towards us, because they will say, "Obia, sorry, I'll say a journalist." So when you do, because that's the situation. I can actually get up today, and before you realize, I'm also a journalist. Why should
That's
that be
true.
so? Why should that be so? Our conduct must be guided by the ethics are there, but we are not even following through with the ethics. And what is happening is that the infiltration of those who are doing the wrong thing is rather being celebrated to the detriment of hardworking people like you who are actually engaging fine brains for good conversations. People will not subscribe to channels that are development focused.
That's right.
But they'll subscribe to channels that would have conversations that
sensational and virtually empty.
Demean people, disrespect people, and disrespect authority.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're selling that more than the tool of transformation and impact that journalism is. And because of that, because grammar is mirroring that, I would take the stand with those who are saying, let's license all of us.
Wow. I like this, your delivery. It comes out very strongly and it comes with a lot of passion. I just hope one of these days, one of the advocates of this licensing on this platform would take it up. And then I think all of us will lend a voice and contribute our quota to ensuring that the system is cleaned up and some sanity comes in. But I have enjoyed this conversation. Amazing time with you. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better time. Amazing time with you. You know, sometimes when we see you people reading things, doing the things you've been asked to do without laughing too much, we think, these people, are they even happy in life? You get the point. Because you can't, for instance, as you were saying in the news, when the thing is about a sad event, you are not supposed to smile. You get it. So if the news is a series of negative events, it means you must keep a straight face to get it running out so that your face is in sync. So we judge those faces as the lifestyle, or rather the overall makeup of the, are you getting the point? I'm sure somebody must have walked up to you, maybe see you smile broadly and is wondering, I see you on TV, you are not like this. I didn't know you were like this. I'm sure you must have had an experience like that. It is the perception. It is the perception of some of us who watch people on television, and over time we tend to picture the person based on the activity they perform and how they project themselves. So, for instance, there are some newscasters I have concluded they may not even be friendly or sociable. But here am I today, you know. I think this program is going to help me to also change my perceptions over time, because I will get to meet a lot more of some of these people, and we'll dig into the inner skin of the people to understand who really they are. My very last question. I just hope it is the last question, actually. You were in the host seat when Ohinere Gifty Auntie was 52 years. You sat in as host of the Standpoint, the special edition, where a number of people she had impacted were brought in to give testimonials of who she is. What kind of relationship did you have with her while you were working together? And how much of an impact did she become on your professional life?
Gifty Auntie and myself have been like mother, daughter, and then sister.
Oh, okay.
Gifty is an encourager, and she also would push you when you have to be pushed. There was a morning she came to me and said, Sally, you don't read. And I said, she said, yeah, you don't read. I've watched the breakfast show you hosted the other day. You had people to interview, and you were asking basic questions. No, ask questions based on your knowledge. So Sally, more. Whoa. And I'm like, okay, I read that. And she says, no, read more. This is a woman who would encourage you to listen to others. She would encourage you not to give up. When she herself critiques you, she expects you to pick yourself back up and smile with her. She she is the typical mentor that many broadcasters look up to, because she's humble and she's able to pull others along. And for me, you haven't succeeded if you are not able to pull others along. These people who pull along are the testament of the success of whatever you're doing. And that is who she is. And so when I was called to come and host and be in her shoes in a show that nobody else has ever hosted apart from her.
Right. Yeah.
I thought that was a great honor. We made her happy. She was very surprised by the whole thing. She wasn't told about it. She wasn't allowed to dictate anything. We took over and did our own thing. But she was pleasantly honored. And I think that that's what we should do. We should see more of such people who are ready to mentor the young ones, because many young people have the wrong idea about career. Career is hard work to get to the top and nothing else. Hard work, diligent, focus. But today, people think there are other ways of cutting corners. They think that it's easy to bootlick, able to make it to the top, or something else, like unfortunately selling their bodies. If the women or even the men these days get to the top, but that's not it. There's no shortcut to success. It's the 13 years that people talk about when they honor me. I am honored, but I know it's been sweat and tears and a lot of focus and diligence, and not allowing whatever I encountered, be it temptation, be it good things, be it sweet offers, to sway me from my purpose.
Wow. What's your take on Solly? Maybe that's my final.
Solly became a necessary evil.
Oh, wow.
Because, yes, Solly, someone will say it's wrong. Yes, it's wrong. You shouldn't give a journalist any extra cash because they came to cover your program. But if that journalist doesn't have money for transportation, they need that extra cash. So what are we kidding ourselves saying that, okay, people shouldn't take Solly? How do we expect them to survive when they are being underpaid? And some of them, I know, are not being paid at all. Some haven't seen salaries in a while. And so it's not the best. And that is why, if journalists are licensed, it's regularized, media owners are made to honor, to better remunerate their workers and place that value on them, then that journalist can walk chest out, look at Solly and turn away. But how does he do that if he is hungry? Stephen, answer my question. So it's not the best, but if we really want it out of the system, we should do the right thing. It takes a few people to be able to say no. Some of us did it. We would say no, would say the crew should have it. We don't want to have a part in it. But on days where you were dry, what did you do? You probably took it. So it's not the way to go. If we value journalism in this country and we know what journalism does for any society, it's a tool of transformation. Look at say when we were trying to bring it to a stop, look at what journalism did. Look at Ghana football. Journalism is what tried to bring it all together and do the right thing. Look at the judiciary. I mean, it's just that creates a platform for poor people to get some bills paid, to get some difficult surgeries or impossible surgeries done. So journalism is important, but as far as we demean it and undervalue it, we will not be able to see its full benefit. And the Solly will continue.
What an exciting conversation. My goodness. This has been PENSDOWN. And my guest today has been one of the ladies I have been watching for years on television. My divine providence today, she is in the hot seat and I am doing the asking. This is life speed testing. It's been pens down. Journalism journeys. That's what we talk here. On pens down, we try to get you to appreciate the challenging times journalists go through while they get you all the stories, the breaking news, the sports, all other things. And sometimes the times to celebrate and also the low moments where we need to better appreciate that they are humans doing their work in the most compelling circumstances. We'll be back next time. There'll be another guest, and it will still be PENSDOWN. Selikem Acolatse-Apaloo has been my guest. Thanks for staying with us. Goodbye.